indeed 3D printing in polymers is indeed this very magical and capable technology. But when you look at metals, the technology has been extremely limited, and still to a large extent today is. What you can do with 3D printing in metals is very limited in terms of the geometries, and in fact it is a solution looking for a problem. It is so limited, so it's really difficult to find applications where it actually makes sense for that to be applied. I want to articulate this problem in the parts that I have in my background. Typically, when I present from the office, I have the parts in my hand. I can show them. Since I'm presenting from home, I'll use the presentation as a prop. So the part that you can see here is an engine. It's about this size, and it's a fully integrated engine. It's a gas turbine that, if it was larger, it would be produced by welding together 61 parts. When you make it so small, you cannot weld it anymore. So really, 3D printing is the only way to make this part. It has many inside cavities that there is no way to get to them from the outside by machining. So really, this part is the poster child of what you would want to produce using additive manufacturing, because you cannot machine it. And these parts that you cannot machine are really the ideal parts for metal additive manufacturing. What you see on the other side is the way this part would be produced using commodity metal additive manufacturing technology. And I use commodity here not in any derogatory way, but just to express the fact that all the capabilities of all the producers, all the technology companies actually get to the same outcome. So you get the same outcome, you get the same capabilities with the same limitations. And the problem here is that all this red material, these are supports that are required to be added to the part while you're building it, and those supports are necessary to complete the part in production. But the problem is that all those supports are made from exactly the same material as the part. They are very massive, and there is no way to remove them. At the end of the process, you would need mechanical access to remove them, but this part has about 5 internal cavities that have no access from the outside wall, making it impossible to reach and remove those supports. So really, what I'm showing on this side is a part that is basically a very heavy paperweight that has no actual use. It's a very expensive piece of garbage. What you can see on the right is the part exactly the way it came from our machine. The closed part is exactly as the part came. The part that is sectioned, we just cut it in two so that you can see the inside of that. And this part, the supports there were not removed. There was no magical technology to post-process and to remove those supports. Actually, there were no supports inside these parts to begin with. So the ability to print those parts and parts like that without support actually opens the field to the production of the parts that would be the best candidates to be produced by additive manufacturing to make the parts people really want. And this is really what the company is doing. The company is focusing on enabling customers to make the parts that they really want to do and transition those parts to manufacturing.
Good. That was a good overview. Before we get a little further into the story, I wanted to focus on a significant announcement that came out late last month. And this might be a question, Benny, in the interest of preserving your voice as we go through this might be a question we can put to Bill. Just with respect to the announcement on the Sapphire XC, that you delivered that to your key aerospace customer. And I wonder if you guys could talk to, number one, the significance of the XT, how it contributes to your current backlog, reservations you've taken for the new system, and maybe remind us how many of these units you anticipate shipping in 2022.
I'll let Benny describe the significance of the.
Okay.
If you can, Benny.
You want me to describe the XC?
Yeah, perhaps answer the first part of the question about the significance of it.
Yeah, so the Sapphire XC was designed as a scale-up system. So it is not a next-generation system. It is not a new technology. It's taking the same technology that we have on the Sapphire and scaling up to larger volume, to larger scale. So the intent was for people that either have bigger parts or for people that want to go to a higher rate production, instead of buying 3 or 4 Sapphires, you could buy one Sapphire XC, getting to the same productivity, but at about 3 times lower manufacturing cost. So the Sapphire XC is a scale-up, is literally manufacturing scale-up, like in semiconductor, like in many other industries. When you get to the point where your production is qualified and you have high enough certainty that you transition to a scale-up stage from pilot to volume production. So that's what the scale-up, that's what the Sapphire XC stands for, extra capacity. The critical part about this system is that it was designed to allow us to transfer parts from Sapphire to Sapphire XC using exactly the same manufacturing process, making the quantification of that completely seamless. And this is the significance of the system. We have tremendous backlog for those systems from customers that are scaling up production. And really, Bill will talk about this in a second. When you look at our expansion in 2022, the massive growth that we're projecting in 2022, big part of that was reliant on the Sapphire XC.
Let me just comment about the backlog and the impact it will have in 2022. So we're going to stick to the disclosure that we made at the time of the third quarter results. So at that time, we disclosed that we had bookings for 17 of these systems. We had 40 million of firm bookings, which was up 55% since June. And we have a further 45 million of reservations of pre-orders, so for a total of 85 million. In terms of the impact on, this system sells at a significantly higher price than the Sapphire. We've disclosed it's in the region of 30 to 50% higher because it's so much more productive. Firm backlog of 40 million, including pre-orders, 85 million. When we at our analyst day, we showed some scenarios for 2022, and one of them showed a unit volume of 48 units, of which 24 would be Sapphire XC. So that was the more recent scenario of the two that we showed. So that gives you some indication that it's going to be a major driver of our growth in revenue from 2021 into 2022, where as we indicated back in at the analyst day presentation, we're expecting very substantial growth. And this product, the acceptance of it by the market has been fabulous, because it delivers a lot of value to customers, and so we expect it to be a huge driver of our scale up in 2022.
And Bill, I wonder, as we go through the early part of 2022, at what point will you have a better feel for the mix? Because as you pointed out, we've had a few scenarios, right?
Yeah. We will. We're not giving guidance on 2022 today, but I would expect in the early part of 2022 we'll have a good sense of the mix, because look, we have. Based on the numbers I just described, we have a pretty we have 17 firm bookings of that number of 24 that was in the scenario that I described. So we got very good visibility on 2022.
The other fairly recent development I wanted to come back to is just the expansion that you're doing in Europe. For the most part, the business up until now has been very much U.S. focused, U.S. centric, but clearly there's some big opportunities, presumably in some of these other geographic markets. So I wonder if you could just maybe bring us up to date on the activity or the facility, the operation you've set up in Europe.
Sure. I'll direct that one to Benny, because he's been most recently over there on the ground in Europe.
Yeah. So for us, the way we think of Europe is it's a scaled down exercise, and a scale down doesn't mean it's easy. We have to learn how to do that. So why is Europe a scale down? Because when you look at additive manufacturing and at strategic manufacturing like we offer, strategic manufacturing capability, what you find is that countries are looking to have the manufacturing capability inside the country. So the European Union in that regard is not one entity. There is Germany, and there is Italy, and there is France, and there is United Kingdom. So for us, what we need to learn, and that's our focus this year, is how to scale down from 300 million people economy to 100 million people and 60 million people economy. So for us, we established a focus that we call FUGI, France, United Kingdom, Germany, Italy, and this is our next focus, global focus. These 4 countries, we established a team in those 4 countries. We now have a team that is more than 10 people that was hired in these countries. We set headquarters in Augsburg in Bavaria, and we are moving very quickly to accelerate our operations and accelerate our sales and marketing in the region, and tweak our strategies and tweak our go-to-market as it applies to this scale-down problem. So once we solve this problem, once we figure out how exactly to operate in this smaller scale environment, we will expand to even more fragmented markets.
Got it. Just going back to the technology, as the Velo story has become better known, and I think people are more aware of it. And as you seem to have struck a nerve, I think, among some of the other players in the market when you talk about the support-free environment. And we start to hear other companies talk about it, and I think we can understand and appreciate why it's important. But I wonder how you would characterize some of what we're hearing from perhaps some of the other players. And again, just as it relates to the approach you're taking.
Yeah. So to answer your question, I will answer that with a little joke. A person stands in front of a judge in a robbery case and pleads, "I wasn't there, and besides, there were others as well." And this articulates in a large way the way our competitors take Velo3D and our solution. So when we started, and we came to customers and we explained to them what we were doing, when those customers went to their suppliers, the incumbents in the market, the feedback that they got and that they kind of communicated back to us was, what you are trying to do is impossible. This is just technically not possible to do. When we showed more and more proof that we are actually doing it, the tune gradually went from this is not impossible, this is not valuable, because it must be extremely expensive the way you're doing it. Well, we showed that that's not the case either. So the next way was, and by the way, we can do that too. And not only we can do that too, but we actually were always able doing this, because all the changes that these companies are proposing are changes that are implementable to systems that have been in the field for 8 years, 10 years, etc. So when you look at all the customers we are selling these systems to, all those customers are customers that are extremely educated. They have been operating our competitors' systems for many, many years, and they know their limitations. And unfortunately, you cannot do with those systems the things we are doing. So what we offer is the ability to make these parts that people really can do. This is not a marketing activity. This is not a marketing spin. And what you can get from our customers, what you can get from our competitors is, and by the way, we can do that too. This is not such a big deal. However, in practice, their customers cannot actually do that. So again and again and again, we go to customers that operate our competitors' machines, and we sell them our solution because they cannot make the parts that they need to make with our competitor solution on our systems. So you will not see us getting into arguments with our competitors about how valuable is the solutions that they are proposing, because there's really nothing new about what they are proposing. It's the same solutions that they have been doing for many, many years, dressed with a new marketing. When you look at the fundamental architectural innovations that are in our system and the components that are there to allow our systems to do what they are doing, this is dramatically different than the cosmetic kind of surface treatment that our competitors are doing. So this is a true capability, allowing our customers to make the parts they really need. And this is very, very, very different. One thing that I want to articulate, we are not just talking about support free. The implication of support free is that a designer, when they are working with Velo3D, can focus entirely on what is the function that they are trying to optimize and design for this function, and then apply design for manufacturability on the edges of that in a very, very simple way. So the design for manufacturability is a very important function, but it becomes a very easy operation to do, as opposed to the way the design methodology has to work with our competitive, where design for additive manufacturing has been a paradigm that has been stifling innovation in this space for many, many years. And we are really eliminating this constraint, eliminating these shackles, allowing designers that have not been indoctrinated with that, that do not have experience in this, just to make the designs they need, and without compromising those designs. So I am very proud to say that there is nothing remotely similar to this capability that we are proposing in the market. And I'm glad to see that our competitors are rattled about what we do and are trying to mimic this, but our customers know to differentiate the real thing.
You know, the other thing, the industry as a whole is talking much more about the importance of software. Fact is, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, Velo3D really was built around software, and the hardware developed as a result of what you were doing on the software side of the business. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the importance of software for the technology, for the company, and for the customers.
Yeah, I kind of like to say, so our VP of engineering was our head of software before he was VP of engineering. Software is definitely the core of what we do. When I give a more technical presentation about our technology and about what we do, at the heart of that is our Flow software, that is a very sophisticated artificial intelligence engine that is analyzing the part and prescribing tens of entirely different recipes to different areas in the part in a way that is optimized to get the material properties and the surface properties of those features, taking into account the local geometrical complexity. This is a very, very sophisticated engine. We are doing roughly probably around 100 times more computations. This is 100 times more computational intensive than commercial print preparation software. So very, very sophisticated engine. This is the core of what we do. And software is absolutely critical. The other part of the business that is also very critical, and we didn't yet talk about this in this call, is the quality control. So we are in the business of making very mission critical parts, high value parts for applications where failure is not an option, whether it's a launch of a $500 million satellite to space, or the engines for a commercial airline, or an undersea pump for oil and gas, or the shower head for semiconductor capital equipment, the position system. In all those cases, these are very high criticality applications where the cost of failure is very, very high. So quality is really essential. And the question is, how do you validate quality? And we went to an approach of quality validation that is very similar to the approach taken in the semiconductor industry from which we are graduates. And the idea is that if you think about additive manufacturing as a layer by layer process, similar to how you make semiconductors, in every layer, you are validating the quality of the process in every step of the way. You are not relying on end-of-line quality to control the quality. The end-of-line quality is just providing you information in which you tweak your quality control program, but your quality control program is local. In a similar way, when we are producing our parts on this thousands layers process, in every layer we are validating the quality of the part and the quality of the process and ensuring that the system is under control. And this fundamental philosophy and this fundamental methodology for quality control is really what this industry has been needing for a really long time. And I think that is another very important angle to ensure that what we are doing is not just allowing customers to make the parts that they need, but actually allowing them to make them production worthy and flight worthy.
Got it. Hey, Bill, this one might be a question for you. Maybe you could go back to what you've talked about in the past about building the organization up and thinking in terms of how we should be thinking about expense items. And I realize you guys are not giving guidance yet for 2022, but just maybe in broad strokes, if you could just remind us about how that the investments are being layered in.
Sure. So we started 2021 as a private company, and we signed the agreement to go public through the merger. So, at that time we had visibility on significant inflow of cash to fund our growth, and so we began building our expense base, building out all the functions of the company to deliver the growth that we believe is the growth opportunity that we believe is there in the market for us. So that involved building up a sales force, building up our engineering group, and then also importantly building up our manufacturing capability. So we leased up the 80,000 square foot facility in Fremont. We've added a lot more staff, because to go from our number that we guided to for 2021 was 26 million. The number that we had indicated as our outlook for 2022 was 89 million. So to scale up 3.5 times, you need a substantially larger organization. So in Q2 we're at 14 million of operating expense. In Q3 that's up to 16.5. So that'll give you and that's about double where we were in 2020. Obviously that doubling growth rate is something that happens at the early part of the curve and doesn't continue every year. But we're scaling up the top line by 3.5 times, and so it's important for us to make the investments now that that means in Q1 of 2022 we're able to deliver at that higher revenue run rate. We'll be continuing to grow those investments, and we're thinking about internally about our goals for 2023, what it's going to take to exit 2022 with a strong backlog for significant growth in 2023, along the lines of the long-term model that we put out in the analyst day. At this point, we're not giving specific guidance on 2022. We'll do that with our first quarter at the time of our first quarter earnings call. So I need to speak in generalities, but it's important for investors to recognize that the investment in infrastructure has to come before the quarter in which you're going to deliver the revenue, because you have to have the space, you have to have the people, and we have a big rollout of our XC product in 2022. So that does require investment in order to make sure the customers have a great experience with this product as they should.
And just turning to customers, obviously SpaceX is a very key customer, also been an investor in the company. I wanted to also pursue, though, your strategy for securing new customers and the speed with which many of those new customers are buying multiple machines, and just in general, your philosophy toward customer acquisition, whether they're OEMs or whether they're contract manufacturers.
Sure. Benny, do you want to take that one? Would you like me to?
I'll try. So at the heart of our strategy is a profanity. So we start with a first very critical question, which is WTF? Why the F Velo? And the idea of this profanity is no one was ever fired for buying IBM. No one will ever get fired for buying one of our competitors when they can actually get the problem solved with one of our competitors. So the first question that we are asking when we are engaging with a customer is, is there a problem of very large impact with this customer that we can solve in a unique way, creating unique value for this customer? If we cannot convince ourselves that such a problem exists, we do not engage with this customer. We tell them very politely that there is a better solution for them in the form of our competitors, and we direct them to work with our competitors. We try to be polite. I think we are. When we find that working with those customers can create this value that we are trying to create, the next step is to identify whether those customers want to buy systems and be vertically integrated, or whether they want to solve their problem by building a supply chain that will supply them with parts. If they want to buy systems, we continue to work with them through our sales organization. If the strategy is around buying parts, we are working with them through another organization that its sole purpose is to help customers transition parts from ideas to production. And this sole purpose of this organization is generate demand for parts to our contract manufacturing partners. So the third pillar in this is we are building in parallel to that a contract manufacturing network. And in the United States, there are approximately 10 suppliers now that operate our machines. Most of them already have multiple machines of different materials. And this creates a diverse copy exact supply chain. And what do I mean by copy exact? I'm using a semiconductor term with an intent. Copy exact means that our customer can take a file and send it to one of those contract manufacturer suppliers, knowing that they're going to get exactly the same outcomes, because all our machines are calibrated to get exactly the same outcome from the same print file. So the creation of this copy exact supply chain is very comforting for the OEMs. It's also very comforting to the suppliers, because the suppliers know that if they have a problem, the customer can go to another supplier and not be stuck. They are not failing the supplier, the OEM. So there is a redundancy in the system. There is a resilience in the system. And we are very responsible in building this contract manufacturing supply chain. We are monitoring the demand in the network all the time, making sure that there is no oversupply of machines, that there is no oversupply of suppliers, and we are building it intentionally with enough diversity, but not too much diversity, so that our contract manufacturer customers can actually make money from this business.
Good. We touched on the need to build up the infrastructure of the organization, the sales and marketing, the manufacturing footprint. I wonder if you could spend a moment or two. We think we understand the impact that XC is going to have, but I wonder if you could share with us a little about the technology roadmap going forward.
Yeah. So for us, when we think about the success of our customers, the success of our customer hinges upon a number of axes. One axis is the quality of the service that we are providing to them and the quality of the collaboration and the customer support. Another axis is the business case. But another really important axis is the reliability of our machines, the way they operate in the field. This is a new technology, and the reliability of those machines has been improving by leaps and bounds, but we still have a lot of work to do. So 2022 is going to be entirely focused on driving stability and reliability, both in the Sapphire product as well in the Sapphire XC product. There is a lot of work for us to do to improve the reliability. In parallel to that, we have been driving continuous improvement through productivity improvements. Our initial intent was to deliver the capability. Immediately after that, we followed with the ability to deliver quality. And then following that is a continuous stream of improvements in productivity and in cost reduction for our customers. And every time we have another innovation that is allowing us to accelerate and to reduce the cost of production, we transfer these benefits to our customers. Again, our philosophy is this is not about us, it's about the customers, and only when we create value to our customers we can scale our business.
Okay, we're going to. I think we're going to end it there. Benny, Bill, I want to thank you both. Benny, in particular, I really can appreciate the strain this has been on your voice, and we do thank you for this. Again, thanks a lot, guys. We'll talk.